A 13-year-old girl dove into frozen Lake Superior while 32 adults stood filming on their phones. The ice cracked. Her body hit water so cold it stopped her heart for 3 seconds. She kept swimming. The 7-year-old boy was sinking fast, his grandmother's locket still clutched in his frozen fingers. She grabbed him, pulled him up. The ice broke again. And again, her lips turned blue, her legs went numb, but she didn't let go. They called her trash, thief's daughter, the homeless girl nobody wanted to see. 9 minutes later, she dragged that boy onto shore and brought him back from the dead. What 97 Hells Angels did next would destroy the most powerful woman in Marquette County. Subscribe now and stay until the end. Comment your city below, let's see how far this story reaches. Maya Torres woke to the sound of rats. She didn't flinch anymore. After 2 years sleeping in the basement of St. Michael's abandoned church. She knew their schedules better than she'd once known her school schedule. The big one, she called him Governor, always came around 6 in the morning, looking for crumbs from whatever she'd managed to eat the night before. "Nothing today, Governor," Maya whispered, her breath forming clouds in the frozen air. "Sorry." She was 13 years old. She would turn 14 in March if she lived that long. The cold in Marquette, Michigan didn't care about birthdays. It was January 15th, 2026, and the temperature had dropped to -11 overnight. Maya had survived by wearing every piece of clothing she owned. 2 shirts, a hoodie, 3 sizes too big, jeans over sweatpants, and socks so thin they might as well have been paper. Her mother had bought her real winter boots once. Good ones. Waterproof, insulated, the kind that cost $80 at the outlet store in Escanaba. That was before. Before Principal Victoria Ashford. Before the lies. Before her mother went to prison for a crime she didn't commit. Maya sat up slowly, her joints aching. 13 years old, and she moved like her grandmother used to, stiff, careful, afraid something might break. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out the letters. 17 of them now. All from Rosa Torres, inmate, number 47291, Hiawatha Correctional Facility. All written on prison stationery with a dull pencil. All saying the same thing, "Mi amor, stay strong. I'm coming home, I promise." Maya pressed the letters against her chest. 2 years. 3 months, 17 days since she'd hugged her mother. Since she'd heard her mother's voice in person instead of through a scratchy prison phone line. Since anyone had called her by her name instead of trash girl. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She'd eaten yesterday half a granola bar from the food bank and an apple that was mostly brown. The day before that, nothing. The day before that, a sleeve of stale crackers someone had thrown away behind the grocery store. Maya stood up, her knees popping. She folded the thin blanket she'd found in a dumpster last month and tucked it behind the broken furnace where no one would find it. Then she climbed the basement stairs and pushed open the rusty door that led to the alley behind the church. The cold hit her like a fist. -11. Maybe colder with the wind chill. Lake Superior didn't care about thermometers. It made its own weather, and today that weather wanted to kill anything soft enough to die. Maya pulled her hood up and started walking. The food bank opened at 9. Maya arrived at 7:30 because the line would be long and the food would run out, and if she wasn't in the first 20 people, she wouldn't eat today. She was 3rd in line. The woman in front of her turned around, looked at Maya, and immediately pulled her coat tighter. Like poverty was contagious. Like homelessness could spread through eye contact. "You're that Torres girl," the woman said. Not a question. Maya didn't answer. "Your mother stole from the school. My daughter went to that school. They had to cut the music program because of what your mother did." Maya's hands curled into fists inside her pockets. The words she wanted to say burned in her throat like fire. My mother never stole anything. She worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. She cleaned toilets and mopped floors and scrubbed vomit off cafeteria tables so I could get an education. And when Victoria Ashford needed someone to blame for her own crimes, my mother was perfect. Single mother. Mexican immigrant. Poor. Who would believe her? But Maya didn't say any of that. She'd learned. Speaking up made things worse. Speaking up got you hit, got you reported to CPS, got you moved to the back of every line. So she just stared at the woman until the woman looked away. "Trash," the woman muttered. "Just like your mother." Maya felt something crack inside her chest. Not break she was past breaking, just crack the way ice cracks before it gives way. I am not trash, she thought. I am Maya Elena Torres. I am 13 years old. I got straight A's for 7 years. I was going to be a doctor. I was going to save lives. I am not trash. But she didn't say it out loud. There was no point. No one was listening. The food bank gave her a box of expired crackers, 2 cans of beans without labels, and a bruised banana. "That's all we have today," the volunteer said, not meeting Maya's eyes. "Budget cuts." Maya nodded, tucked the food into her backpack, and walked out into the cold. The library wouldn't open until 10. She had an hour to kill. An hour where the only warm place available was a McDonald's that had banned her 2 months ago for sitting too long without buying anything. So, she walked to the lake. Lake Superior in January was a study in violence. Ice extended hundreds of feet from shore, but it was treacherous ice thin in places, cracked in others, covered with snow that hid the weak spots. The locals knew to stay away from the shore until February, when the ice was thick enough to support ice fishing shanties. But Maya liked it here anyway. The lake didn't judge her. The lake didn't call her trash. The lake just existed, massive, and cold and indifferent, and somehow that indifference was more comforting than anything humans had offered her in 2 years. She sat on a bench that faced the water and ate the bruised banana, slowly making each bite last. That's when she saw the boy. He was small, maybe 6, maybe 7. Blonde hair sticking out from under a red knit cap. Puffy blue jacket that looked warm and expensive. Spider-Man boots that probably cost more than Maya had eaten in the past month. He was walking toward the ice. No, he was already on the ice. 20 feet out, picking his way carefully across the frozen surface, heading toward something that glittered in the morning sun. Maya stood up. "Hey!" she shouted. "Kid, get off the ice!" The boy either didn't hear her or didn't care. He kept walking, eyes fixed on whatever he was trying to reach. Maya looked around. The beach wasn't crowded. It was too cold for that, but there were people. A man walking his dog near the parking lot. 2 women in running gear stretching by the bathroom building. A guy in a county parks jacket leaning against his truck, scrolling through his phone. "Hey!" Maya shouted again, this time at them. "There's a kid on the ice!" The man with the dog looked up, saw the boy, and shook his head. "Not my kid," he muttered, turning back to his phone. The women glanced toward the lake, then at each other. One of them said, "We should call someone." Neither of them moved. The parks worker didn't even look up. Maya's heart was pounding now. The boy was 40 feet out, still walking completely unaware that the ice beneath him was too thin, too dangerous, too deadly. "Kid!" Maya screamed. "Stop! The ice isn't safe!" This time he heard her. He turned, looked at her with big blue eyes, and held up something in his hand. "I have to get my Grammy's locket," he shouted back. "It fell out of my pocket, I can see it." And he pointed at a spot on the ice another 30 feet ahead, where something gold caught the weak winter sun. Maya's blood went cold. She knew that spot. She'd been watching this lake for 2 years. She knew where the ice was thick, and where it was thin, where the currents kept it weak, where people fell through every winter. The boy was heading straight for a death trap. "Don't move!" Maya yelled. "Stay right there! I'm coming!" But the boy didn't listen. He took another step, then another. And the ice beneath him gave way. The crack was so loud it echoed off the trees. 1 second the boy was standing on white ice. The next second, he was gone. Maya didn't think. She dropped her backpack, kicked off her worthless shoes, and ran. Behind her she heard voices, people shouting, phones coming out, someone saying, "Oh my God," over and over. But no one else was running. No one else was moving toward the water. Just her. Maya hit the ice at full speed and immediately felt it shift beneath her. Thin. So thin. She spread her weight, dropped to her stomach, and crawled. Faster. Her bare hands burned against the ice. Her knees scraped through her jeans. Her breath came in sharp gasps that hurt her lungs. The hole was 60 feet away. 50. 40. She could hear the boy screaming now, high, terrified screams that cut through the cold air like knives. "Help! Help me! It's cold! It's so cold!" 30 feet. 20. The ice cracked beneath her. Maya froze, feeling the surface bow under her weight. If she moved wrong, if she shifted her weight too fast, the whole sheet would give way and they'd both be dead. "I'm coming!" she shouted. "Keep your head up, kick your legs. 15 feet, 10. She could see him now, his little hands clawing at the edge of the ice, his face already turning blue, his eyes huge with terror. 5 feet. Maya reached the edge of the hole and grabbed the boy's jacket. "I've got you," she said. "I've got you. Don't let go." "I can't feel my legs," the boy whimpered. "That's okay. I've got you. Hold on to me." She pulled. The boy was heavier than she expected, waterlogged clothes, dead weight. Her arms screamed with the effort. The ice beneath her groaned. "Come on," Maya grunted. "Come on!" The boy's torso came out of the water, then his hips, then his legs, and the ice gave way beneath them both. The cold was like nothing Maya had ever experienced. It wasn't cold. It was knives. It was fire. It was every nerve in her body screaming at once. She went under, lost her grip on the boy, clawed desperately toward the surface. Her head broke through and she gasped, swallowing ice water that burned her throat. "Where are you?" she screamed. "Kid, where are you?" A hand broke the surface 3 feet away. Small fingers already turning white. Maya lunged for it, grabbed it, pulled. The boy came up sputtering, coughing, barely conscious. "Stay with me," Maya said, her teeth chattering so hard she could barely speak. "Stay awake. Don't close your eyes." She hooked one arm around his chest and started kicking toward shore. The ice kept breaking around them. Every time she tried to climb out, the edge crumbled. Her body was shutting down. She could feel it, the cold stealing her strength, one heartbeat at a time. But she kept kicking. Because the boy was 7 years old. Because his Grammy's locket was somewhere at the bottom of this lake. Because he didn't deserve to die for something as small as wanting to hold on to a piece of the person he'd lost. Because Maya Torres was 13 years old, and homeless, and starving, and alone. But she was not going to let this boy die. Not while she still had one breath left in her body. On the shore, 32 people watched. Phones were out recording. Someone was crying. Someone else was praying. Two firefighters off duty standing by their truck argued about whether they should go in without equipment. "The rescue team is 6 minutes out," one of them said. "If we go in without suits, we'll just have 2 more victims." "She's got him," the other said. "Look, she's still moving. She's bringing him in." "She's a kid. She's going to die." "Then we should wait. The protocol didn't matter to Mrs. Elizabeth Hartley, who taught Sunday school at First Lutheran Church, who had known the boy's mother before she died, who had held this boy as an infant and told him stories about Jesus and the fishermen. She stood on the shore, phone raised, recording everything. Later she would post the video to Facebook with the caption, "Heroic rescue at Lake Superior today. Prayers for the little boy." She would not mention that she'd stood there for 9 minutes doing nothing. She would not mention that the person who saved the boy's life was a 13-year-old homeless girl everyone in town called trash. She would not mention that 32 adults had watched a child drown, and not one of them had gotten their feet wet. Maya's knees hit sand. She didn't remember the last 20 feet. Her body had done it on autopilot, some animal survival instinct taking over when her brain had given up. She dragged the boy out of the water and collapsed next to him on the frozen beach. He wasn't breathing. "No," Maya whispered. "No, no, no." She rolled him onto his back, tilted his head, opened his airway. CPR. She'd read about it in the library, watched videos on the computers when the librarians weren't looking. She'd never done it on a real person. She'd never done anything that mattered until right now. 2 breaths. Watch the chest rise. 30 compressions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. "Come on," Maya begged. "Come on, kid, breathe, breathe." Her arms were numb. She couldn't feel her hands anymore, but she kept pushing, kept counting, kept trying. 20 compressions. 25. 30. 2 more breaths. Nothing. "Please," Maya sobbed. "Please don't die. Please." 30 compressions. Her technique was wrong. She knew it was wrong. Her hands weren't in the right place. She wasn't pushing hard enough. But she kept going. 2 breaths. The boy coughed. Water exploded from his mouth and he coughed again, and then he was breathing ragged, horrible, rattling breaths. But breathing. Maya collapsed onto her side, her body shaking so hard she couldn't control it. "Is he okay?" someone shouted from the crowd. "Is the boy alive?" Maya wanted to scream at them. Wanted to ask where they'd been when the boy was drowning, where they'd been when she was dying in that water, where they'd been for the last 2 years, while she starved and froze and disappeared into nothing. But she didn't have the strength. She just lay there, on the frozen sand, her body shutting down, and waited for someone to finally help. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. By then, Maya couldn't feel anything below her neck. Her core temperature had dropped to 91 degrees another 15 minutes, and she would have been dead. The paramedics loaded both of them into the ambulance. One of them, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, wrapped heated blankets around Maya's body and started an IV. "You saved him," the paramedic said. "Do you know that you saved that boy's life?" Maya's lips were too numb to speak, but she managed to nod. "What's your name, sweetheart?" It took her 3 tries to get the word out. Maya Torres." The paramedic's expression flickered. Recognition. Everyone in Marquette County knew the name Torres. "The janitor's daughter," the paramedic said quietly. "The one whose mother didn't do it," Maya whispered. "She didn't do it. She never stole anything." The paramedic didn't argue. She just tucked the blankets tighter and said, "Let's focus on getting you warm." In the other gurney, the boy was starting to move. His eyes fluttered open, looked around, found Maya. "You saved me," he said, his voice tiny and weak. "What's your name?" Maya asked. "Lucas. Lucas Brennan." He swallowed hard. "I wanted Grammy's locket. It fell. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just stay warm." Lucas's eyes started to close, then snapped open again. "My daddy's going to be really mad." "Who's your daddy?" Lucas lifted one small hand and pointed at the patch on his jacket. Maya hadn't noticed it before. A skull with wings surrounded by flames. Below it words stitched in white thread, property of Reaper Iron Range Chapter. The paramedic saw it too. Her face went pale. "Oh God," she whispered. "This is Daniel Brennan's son." Maya didn't know what that meant, but from the look on the paramedic's face, it meant something big. Daniel Reaper Brennan was in the middle of a meeting when his phone rang. The Iron Range chapter of the Hellsangels met every Saturday morning at the clubhouse on the outskirts of town. 43 members plus prospects, plus the families that showed up for the free breakfast. Reaper was road captain responsible for organizing rides, planning routes, keeping the brothers safe on the highway. He was also 6'4", 240 pounds, covered in tattoos, and exactly as dangerous as he looked. His wife had died giving birth to Lucas 7 years ago. Since then, Reaper had raised his son alone. The club had become Lucas's family 43 uncles who would die for him. And now someone was calling from an unknown number during a meeting, which meant something was wrong. "Yeah," Reaper answered. "Mr. Brennan, this is Marquette General Hospital. Your son Lucas was involved in an accident. He fell through ice at Lake Superior. He's stable now, but..." Reaper was already running. He made the 15-minute drive in 7 minutes, ignored every traffic light, every speed limit, every law that existed. His brothers would handle the meeting. His brothers would understand. His son was in the hospital. His son had almost died. Reaper burst through the ER doors like a man on fire. "Lucas Brennan," he said to the first nurse he saw. "Where is he?" The nurse looked up at the massive, terrifying man in a leather jacket covered in patches, and to her credit, she didn't flinch. "Room 4, down the hall, second door on the left. He's stable." Reaper was moving before she finished speaking. He found Lucas in a hospital bed wrapped in warming blankets, eyes closed. A doctor was checking his vitals. "He's going to be fine," the doctor said before Reaper could ask. "Hypothermia and some minor frostbite on his fingers, but no permanent damage. He was only in the water for about 4 minutes. Another few minutes, and we'd be having a different conversation." Reaper's legs went weak. He grabbed the bed rail to keep from falling. "What happened?" he asked. "Your son went onto thin ice. Fell through. A bystander pulled him out and performed CPR until the paramedics arrived." Reaper looked at his son, this small boy, who was everything he had left in the world. Who pulled him out? A young girl, 13 years old. She's in room 6. She nearly died herself getting him out. Severe hypothermia. She was in worse shape than your son when they brought her in. Reaper's jaw tightened. A child. A 13-year-old child had saved his son. "Is she okay?" "She's stable. But..." the doctor hesitated. "She's homeless. No family here. Social services is already on their way. She'll probably be placed in foster care by the end of the day." Something in Reaper's chest cracked open. A homeless kid had risked her life for his son. A child that society had thrown away had done what 32 adults hadn't. "Which room?" Reaper asked. "Reaper. Room 6, but sir, visiting hours." Reaper was already walking. Maya was alone when the door opened. She'd been alone for 2 years. She was used to it. But she wasn't used to the man who walked in. He was enormous, terrifying. Tattoos covering every visible inch of skin. Eyes that looked like they'd seen things, done things, survived things that would break normal people. And he was looking at her like she was the most important person in the world. "You're Maya," he said. Not a question. She nodded, too tired to be scared. "I'm Daniel. People call me Reaper. Lucas is my son." Maya's eyes widened. The patch on Lucas's jacket. Reaper. Iron Range chapter. Hell's Angels. "He's okay," Maya whispered. The doctor said, "I know." Reaper pulled a chair next to her bed and sat down. This massive, dangerous man sitting at eye level with a 13-year-old homeless girl. "I also know what you did. The paramedics told me. You went into the ice when nobody else would. You did CPR for 6 minutes. You almost died saving my boy." Maya didn't say anything. "What was there to say? Why?" Reaper asked. "You don't know us. You could have walked away. Nobody would have blamed you." Maya thought about the question. Thought about the 32 people on the beach with their phones out. Thought about Mrs. Hartley, who'd taught her Sunday school 3 years ago before everything fell apart. Thought about the firefighters who'd argued about protocol while a child drowned. "Because no one else would," she said finally. "And he's just a little kid. He didn't deserve to die because adults were too scared to help." Reaper stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "The nurses told me who you are. Maya Torres, daughter of Rosa Torres." Maya's whole body tensed. Here it came. The judgment, the disgust, the same reaction she'd gotten from everyone in this town for 2 years. "Your mother's in prison for theft," Reaper continued. "Stole $47,000 from Marquette Academy. At least that's what the papers said." Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. "She didn't do it. She never stole anything. Principal Ashford." "I know." Maya's breath caught. "What?" Reaper leaned forward, his voice low and serious. "I said I know. Your mother didn't steal that money. Victoria Ashford did. She's been skimming from that school for years. Your mother was just convenient poor immigrant, no resources to fight back. Perfect scapegoat." Maya couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. In 2 years, not one person had believed her. Not one person had even listened. "How do you know?" she whispered. "Because I've been watching Ashford for 3 years. She got my brother fired from his maintenance job at the school in 2020. Planted evidence said he was stealing equipment. Destroyed his life." Reaper's jaw tightened. "I've been looking for proof ever since. Looking for a way to take her down." Maya's hands were shaking. "I have proof." Reaper went very still. "What kind of proof?" "A recording from 6 months ago. I snuck into the school and hid in her office. I recorded her talking to someone on the school board. She admitted everything. Said my mother was perfect because no one would believe her." Reaper's eyes burned with something that looked like fire. "Where's the recording?" "My phone. It's in my backpack. I dropped it on the beach." Reaper stood up. "Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'll be back." He walked out of the room, and Maya lay there in the hospital bed, shaking with something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. 20 minutes later, Reaper returned with her backpack. "Got it from the beach," he said. "Phone's still in here." He handed it to her, and Maya pulled out the cracked iPhone 6 she'd found in a pawn shop dumpster last year. The screen was shattered. The battery was at 3%. But when she opened the voice memo app, the file was still there. She pressed play. Victoria Ashford's voice filled the room, smooth and confident and damning. "Rosa Torres was perfect. Single mother, immigrant background, no resources to fight back. Who's going to believe a janitor over me? The police didn't even investigate. They just took my word for it." Another voice, a man. And you're sure the money's hidden? Greg, I've been doing this for 5 years. 47,000 is just what I blamed on Torres. The total is closer to 300,000. Offshore accounts, untraceable. By the time anyone figures it out, I'll be retired on a beach somewhere. The recording ended. Reaper's face was stone. That's enough to put her away for 20 years, he said. And get your mother out tomorrow. Maya started crying. Really crying for the first time since her mother's sentencing. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Reaper didn't try to stop her. He just sat there, this massive, terrifying man, and let a 13-year-old homeless girl cry on his shoulder. When she finally stopped, when the tears ran out, he said, "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay in this hospital until you're healthy. Social services doesn't get near you. I've got a lawyer on retainer who'll make sure of that. Tomorrow we take this recording to the district attorney. Day after that, Victoria Ashford gets arrested. Week after that, your mother comes home." Maya looked at him through swollen eyes. Why would you do all this for me?" Reaper's expression softened. Just slightly. Just enough. "Because you saved my son's life. In my world, that's called a blood debt. It means I owe you everything I have. Everything I am." He stood up, towering over her. "And because some debts don't get repaid with money, they get repaid with justice." He walked to the door, then stopped. "Get some rest, Maya Torres. Tomorrow we start burning down Victoria Ashford's world." And he walked out, leaving Maya alone with her mother's letters and the phone that held the key to setting her free. For the first time in 2 years, Maya Torres closed her eyes and didn't dream of drowning. She dreamed of her mother's arms. She dreamed of home. Reaper didn't go home that night. He went to the clubhouse, walked past the bar where 3 prospects were cleaning up from the morning meeting, and straight into the back room they called the War Room. Oak table 12, chairs, walls covered with maps and photographs, and the kind of documents that never saw daylight. He pulled out his phone and made one call. "Ironside, get everyone. Tonight, 9 o'clock, full mobilization." Marcus Webb's voice came through calm, steady. 22 years Detroit PD retired detective, the man who could find anything on anyone. "What's happening, brother?" "Someone saved my son's life today. 13-year-old homeless girl. She's been living on the streets for 2 years because Victoria Ashford framed her mother for theft." Silence on the line. "The same Ashford who got Tommy fired." "The same one, and the girl has proof. Recording of Ashford admitting everything." Ironside let out a low whistle. "I'll make the calls. 9 o'clock. We'll be there." Reaper hung up and stared at the wall. 2 years he'd been trying to find something on Ashford. 2 years of dead ends and buried records and witnesses too scared to talk. And a 13-year-old girl living in an abandoned church had done what he couldn't. She'd gotten Ashford on tape. His phone buzzed. Text from the hospital. Lucas was awake, asking for him. Reaper drove back to Marquette General in 12 minutes. Lucas was sitting up in bed when he walked in, color back in his cheeks, eyes bright, despite everything he'd been through. 7 years old, and already tougher than most men Reaper knew. "Daddy," Lucas reached for him. Reaper crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped his son in his arms. Held him tight. Felt the small heart beating against his chest, proof that his boy was alive, that he hadn't lost the only thing left in the world that mattered. "I'm sorry," Lucas whispered into his shoulder. "I dropped Grammy's locket. I just wanted to get it back. I'm sorry, Daddy." "Shh." Reaper stroked his son's hair. "It's okay. You're okay. That's all that matters." "The girl saved me, the one from the water. She was so cold, Daddy. She was shaking really bad, but she didn't let go. She kept saying, "I've got you," over and over. Reaper pulled back, looked at his son's face. "Do you remember her name?" "Maya. She said her name was Maya." Lucas's lip trembled. "Is she okay? The doctors took her away and I didn't see her again." "She's okay. She's resting. And when you're both better, you can thank her yourself." Lucas nodded. Then his face crumpled. "Everyone was just standing there, Daddy. I could see them from the water. They had their phones out. They were watching me. But nobody came. Only Maya came." Reaper's jaw tightened so hard, he thought his teeth might crack. "I know, son. I know. Why didn't they help me?" It was the question Reaper had been asking himself since he got the call. The question he'd asked himself 100 times in the past 5 hours. And he still didn't have an answer. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But Maya did. And we're going to make sure she never has to be alone again." Lucas brightened. "Can she come to our house?" "She doesn't have a house, Daddy. The nurses were talking about it. They said she's been sleeping outside." Reaper thought about the 13-year-old girl in room 6. Malnourished, hypothermic, alone. No family, no home, no future. She'd had nothing left to lose when she went into that water. "We'll see," Reaper said. "Get some rest. I'll be back in the morning." He kissed his son's forehead, pulled the blanket up to his chin, and walked out into the hallway. The social worker was waiting for him. She was maybe 30, clipboard in hand, glasses that made her look older than she was. Name tag read, "Jennifer Collins Child Protective Services." "Mr. Brennan, I need to speak with you about the girl in room 6. Reaper crossed his arms. "What about her?" "She's a minor without legal guardianship. Her mother is incarcerated, father unknown. We need to place her in emergency foster care as soon as she's medically cleared." "No," Jennifer blinked. "Excuse me, I said no. That girl saved my son's life. She's not going into foster care, Mr. Brennan. I understand you're grateful, but there are procedures." "I don't care about procedures. I care about that kid not getting thrown into a system that's already failed her." Reaper stepped closer, using every inch of his 6'4" frame. "Her mother was wrongfully convicted. I have proof. By this time next week, Rosa Torres will be a free woman, and Maya will be home with her family. Until then, she stays in that hospital room, under my protection." Jennifer's face went red. "You can't just—" "I can and I will. I have a lawyer. His name is Gerald Whitmore. You want to fight this, you call him. Otherwise, you walk away and let that girl rest." For a moment, Reaper thought she might push back. Social workers usually did. They had rules to follow, boxes to check, quotas to fill. But something in his eyes must have told her this wasn't a battle she'd win. "Fine," Jennifer said, her voice clipped. "But if her mother's conviction isn't overturned by Friday, I'm coming back with a court order." "You do that." She walked away, heels clicking on the linoleum. Reaper watched her go, then pulled out his phone and called Gerald Whitmore. "Gerald, I need you at Marquette General. Now!" The lawyer arrived in 40 minutes. 63 years old, silver hair, 3-piece suit that cost more than most people's cars. He'd been the club's attorney for 15 years, handled everything from traffic violations to federal investigations. Reaper met him in the hospital lobby and told him everything. When he finished, Gerald's face was pale. "You're telling me a 13-year-old girl has a recording of Victoria Ashford admitting to embezzlement and framing Rosa Torres?" "That's what I'm telling you. And you want me to get Rosa Torres released while simultaneously protecting Maya from CPS?" "That's exactly what I want." Gerald took off his glasses, cleaned them slowly. "Reaper, this is going to require— I don't care what it requires. Name your price." "It's not about money, it's about moving fast enough. Ashford has connections. The moment she finds out about this recording, she's going to do everything in her power to bury it. Destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, maybe even come after the girl." Reaper's expression turned deadly. "Then we move faster. And if anyone comes near that girl, they'll answer to 97 brothers who don't believe in courtrooms." Gerald studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I'll file an emergency motion first thing in the morning. Wrongful conviction based on new evidence. If the recording is as damning as you say, I can get a hearing by Wednesday." Wednesday isn't fast enough. It's the fastest the system moves, even for something like this. Gerald put his glasses back on. "In the meantime, I'll make sure CPS doesn't touch Maya. Emergency custody petition filed tonight. We name a temporary guardian, someone the court won't question." "Who?" Gerald raised an eyebrow. "You, obviously. You're a business owner with no criminal record. Your son was the victim. The girl saved his life. No judge in the world would deny that petition." Reaper hadn't thought about it that way. Hadn't thought about anything except protecting Maya and bringing down Ashford. But now, standing in this hospital lobby, he realized what Gerald was saying. He was about to become responsible for a 13-year-old girl he'd met 6 hours ago. A girl who had nothing and no one. A girl who had risked everything to save his son. "Do it," Reaper said. "File the petition tonight." Gerald nodded and walked toward the exit. "I'll need to interview Maya. Get her statement on record. Can you bring her to my office tomorrow?" "She'll be there." The lawyer left, and Reaper stood alone in the lobby, thinking about everything that had changed in the past 6 hours. This morning, he'd woken up with one priority: keep his son safe. Now he had 2. At 9 o'clock that night, 97 motorcycles filled the clubhouse parking lot. Traverse City Chapter, Iron Range Chapter, Petoskey Chapter, Gaylord Chapter. Brothers who'd driven 2 hours in sub-zero temperatures because Reaper called. Because when a road captain said full mobilization, you showed up. No questions. No excuses. Reaper stood at the front of the war room, looking at the faces of men he'd ridden with for 15 years. Men who'd bled together, buried brothers together, built something that most people would never understand. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know it's short notice. I know some of you drove through hell to get here. But this couldn't wait." He told them everything. About Lucas falling through the ice. About the 32 people who stood watching. About Maya Torres, 13 years old, homeless, starving, going into the water when no one else would. About Victoria Ashford. About the recording. About Rosa Torres rotting in prison for a crime she didn't commit, while the real thief bought vacation homes and got promoted. When he finished, the room was silent. Then Hammer stood. Club Elder founding member, the man whose word was law, even above the president's. "What do you need, brother?" Reaper looked around the room at 97 faces, 97 men who'd chosen each other as family. "Everything. Financial records, witness statements, documentation. We build a case so solid that Ashford goes to prison for 20 years and Rosa Torres walks free by the end of the week." Ironside stepped forward. "I'll lead investigation. I've got contacts at the county assessor's office. We can pull property records, bank filings, anything that shows where Ashford's money really went." Doc stood next. Leonard Hayes, Vietnam medic, the club's unofficial historian. "I'll verify the girl's story. Talk to former school employees, find the other victims. If Ashford's been doing this for years, there are more people she destroyed. We find them, we get them to testify." Bite raised his hand. 29 IT specialist, the youngest, patched member. "Digital footprint. Emails, texts, social media. If Ashford's been communicating with anyone about this, I'll find it." Teach stood last. Former high school guidance counselor, the brother everyone went to when they needed to talk. "I'll work with Maya. Help her document everything. That girl's been through hell. She needs someone in her corner who knows how to listen." Reaper nodded at each of them. "We meet back here in 24 hours. Bring evidence. Bring witnesses. Bring the truth." Hammer looked around the room. "All in favor of full mobilization." The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then every single hand went up. Not one hesitation. Not one dissent. 97 men voting unanimously to help a 13-year-old girl they'd never met because she'd saved one of their own. Because that's what brotherhood meant. Because blood debt was sacred. And because some debts couldn't be paid with money. They could only be paid with justice. The next morning, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through the hospital window. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The bed was too soft. The room was too warm. The silence was too complete. Then it all came rushing back. The ice, the water, Lucas, the recording, Reaper. She sat up fast, heart pounding. The IV tugged at her arm. The heart monitor beeped faster. "Easy, easy." A nurse appeared at her bedside, gently pressing her shoulders back against the pillow. "You're okay. You're safe. Just breathe." Maya's chest heaved. "My backpack. My phone. Where? Right here." The nurse pointed to the chair beside the bed where her battered backpack sat. "Mr. Brennan brought it back last night. He said you'd want it close." Maya's eyes found the backpack, then the phone sticking out of the front pocket. Still there. Still safe. The recording was still safe. "How do you feel?" the nurse asked. "Any dizziness, numbness in your hands or feet?" "I'm fine." Maya's voice came out hoarse. "I need to go. You need to rest. Doctor's orders." The nurse's voice was firm but kind. "You had severe hypothermia. Your body needs time to recover." "You don't understand. I have to—" The door opened. Reaper walked in, and the nurse immediately stepped back. Not in fear exactly, but in recognition that this was a man who didn't hear the word no very often. "I'll give you a few minutes," the nurse said, and slipped out. Reaper pulled a chair next to Maya's bed and sat down. He looked different in daylight. Still massive, still covered in tattoos, but his eyes were softer now. Tired. "How's Lucas?" Maya asked immediately. Reaper smiled. The expression transformed his face, made him look almost gentle. "He's good. Talking about you non-stop. Wants to know when he can see you." Maya felt something warm bloom in her chest. The first warm thing she'd felt in 2 years that didn't come from a heating vent or a stolen blanket. "My lawyer filed an emergency petition last night," Reaper continued. "Temporary custody. You're not going into foster care." Maya stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means you're under my protection until your mother gets out, which if everything goes right should be by the end of the week." The words didn't make sense. They bounced around in Maya's head like foreign sounds, like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. "My mother's getting out." "Gerald Whitmore, my lawyer filed a motion this morning. Wrongful conviction based on new evidence. Your recording plus everything else we're going to dig up on Ashford." Reaper leaned forward. "Maya, I need you to understand something. What you did yesterday, going into that water-saving Lucas, that changed everything. Not just for my son, for you, for your mother, for every person Ashford has ever hurt." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back hard. She'd spent 2 years not crying. 2 years being strong because there was no one to be strong for her. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why are you doing all this? You don't even know me." Reaper was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and serious. 15 years ago, I was in a bad place. Drugs, alcohol, running with people who didn't give a damn if I lived or died. My brother, not blood brother, club brother, found me passed out in an alley behind a bar. I'd been beaten up, robbed, left for dead. He picked me up, carried me to his truck, drove me to his house and let me sleep on his couch for 3 months while I got clean." He paused, his eyes distant with memory. I asked him the same question you just asked me. Why help some junkie you barely know? You know what he said. Maya shook her head. He said, because someone helped me once, and the only way to pay that back is to pass it forward. That's what the club is, Maya. That's what brotherhood means. You don't help people because they can pay you back. You help them because it's right. Because everyone deserves someone in their corner. A tear slipped down Maya's cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Your mother's been in prison for 2 years for something she didn't do, Reaper continued. You've been living on the streets, starving, freezing, invisible. And when you saw my son drowning, you didn't hesitate. You didn't think about yourself. You just acted. That kind of courage, his voice cracked slightly. That's rare, that's precious, and I'll be damned if I let anyone throw it away. Maya couldn't speak, could barely breathe. For 2 years, no one had seen her, no one had listened, no one had cared. And now this stranger, this terrifying tattooed biker was sitting at her bedside telling her she mattered. Get some rest, Reaper said, standing. My lawyer's coming by this afternoon to take your statement. Tomorrow we start building the case against Ashford, and by the end of the week... He paused at the door, looked back at her. By the end of the week, you're going to have your mother back. He walked out. Maya lay there in the hospital bed, clutching her mother's letters against her chest, and cried until there were no tears left. But for the first time in 2 years, they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of hope. 3 hours later, Gerald Whitmore arrived with a briefcase and a legal pad. He was gentler than Maya expected. Patient. He didn't rush her, didn't push. When she stumbled over words, didn't show any of the impatience that adults usually had when dealing with children. Tell me everything, he said. Start from the beginning. Take your time. So Maya told him. She told him about her mother working 3 jobs, about the janitor position at Marquette Academy, about the night Principal Ashford called the police and accused Rosa Torres of stealing $47,000 from the school fund. She told him about the trial, about the public defender, who barely looked at her mother's file, about the judge who sentenced Rosa to 5 years based on Ashford's testimony alone. She told him about the day social services came to take her, about running about hiding, about surviving. And she told him about the recording. I need to hear it, Gerald said. The whole thing. Maya pulled out her phone, navigated to the voice memo, and pressed play. Victoria Ashford's voice filled the room once again. Gerald listened without moving, without blinking. His face gave nothing away. When the recording ended, he sat back and let out a long breath. That's extraordinary, he said quietly. That's not just proof of embezzlement. That's proof of conspiracy evidence, tampering, and perjury. If I present this to the right judge with the right supporting evidence, I can get your mother's conviction overturned. Not reduced, not commuted, overturned, complete exoneration. Maya's hands were shaking. How soon? I'm filing an emergency motion today. Given the nature of the evidence, I can push for an expedited hearing. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday at the latest. And my mom, if the judge rules in our favor, she could be released within 48 hours of the ruling. But Maya, Gerald leaned forward. I need you to understand that this is going to get ugly. When Ashford finds out about this recording, she's going to fight. Hard. She has money connections, resources. She'll try to discredit you, discredit your mother, maybe even claim the recording is fabricated. It's not. I know, but that won't stop her from trying. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to face her in court? Maya thought about the 32 people who watched Lucas drown. Thought about Mrs. Hartley with her phone raised. Thought about the social worker who called her mother that thief. Thought about 2 years of cold and hunger and loneliness. I've been facing worse for 2 years, she said. I'm not scared of her. Gerald smiled. It made him look younger, almost human. Good. Because this time you're not alone. He tucked his legal pad into his briefcase and extended his hand. Maya shook it. Her grip was stronger than it should have been for a 13-year-old girl who'd nearly died the day before. "Get some rest," Gerald said. "You're going to need your strength for what comes next." He left. Maya sat alone in the hospital room, holding her phone like a weapon. 2 years of waiting. 2 years of hoping. 2 years of fighting to survive. And now, finally, she had a chance to fight back. She opened her contacts and scrolled to the one number she'd memorized, the one number she called every Sunday at exactly 3 o'clock. Hiawatha Correctional Facility. Inmate call line. She pressed dial. The phone rang 3 times before a recorded message kicked in. "This is a collect call from Hiawatha Correctional Facility. To accept charges, press 1. Maya pressed 1, and then her mother's voice came through the line, thin and distant, but unmistakably hers. "Maya mija, is that you?" "Mama." The word came out, choked. "Mama, I have something to tell you. Something good." "What is it? What's wrong?" "You sound, nothing's wrong, everything's right." "Finally, everything's right." Maya took a breath. "I got her, Mama. I got Ashford on tape. I have proof. A lawyer's filing papers today. You're coming home." Silence on the line. Then a sound Maya hadn't heard in 2 years. Her mother crying. "Mija, my baby, how?" "I'll explain everything when I see you. But it's real, Mama. It's happening. You're coming home." Rosa Torres sobbed on the other end of the phone, 600 miles away in a prison cell, and Maya sobbed with her. 2 years of separation. 2 years of fighting alone. And now, for the first time since the police took her mother away in handcuffs, Maya Torres believed in the future. She believed in tomorrow. She believed in home. 24 hours after Reaper's call, the war room looked like a federal investigation headquarters. Documents covered every surface. Financial records spread across the oak table. Laptops running analysis programs. A whiteboard filled with names, dates, arrows connecting the web of Victoria Ashford's crimes. 97 men stood waiting, silent, focused. Ironside walked to the front, clicked a remote. A photograph appeared on the screen behind him. Professional headshot. Blonde hair perfectly styled. Pearl necklace. Confident smile that had fooled an entire community. "Victoria Elizabeth Ashford," Ironside said. "Age 48. Principal of Marquette Academy for 11 years. Salary $162,000 annually. Total assets as of this morning, $2.4 million. He paused. "On paper, she's untouchable. Rotary Club president. Church board member. Charity gala organizer. The kind of woman who gets her picture in the paper for donating to children's hospitals." Next slide. But the pattern tells a different story. Bite stepped forward, tablet in hand. 5 formal complaints filed against Ashford in the past 8 years. All dismissed by the school board. Want to guess who sits on the school board's disciplinary committee? "Ashford," someone muttered. "Every single time." Bite pulled up financial records. "I traced her accounts last night. She's been skimming from the school for 11 years. Started small. 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Testing the system, seeing what she could get away with." He swiped to a new screen. "Total embezzlement to date $312,000. Offshore accounts in the Caymans. Shell corporations in Delaware. She's been laundering money through a fake charity called Children's Education Foundation. The charity exists on paper. It has a website, a board of directors, everything. But it's never given a single dollar to any child." The room went dead silent. Doc spoke next. I talked to 6 former school employees yesterday, off the record. Same story every time. His voice was flat, controlled. Ashford makes mistakes. Ashford steals. And when the auditors get close, she finds a scapegoat. Someone vulnerable. Someone who can't fight back. He laid out 4 files on the table. Rosa Torres was the 4th victim. Before her, there was James Whitehorse, maintenance worker, enrolled member of the Ojibwe tribe. Ashford accused him of stealing copper wire from the school renovation project. He was deported back to Canada even though he'd lived here for 30 years. Doc opened the 2nd file. Marie Kowalski, school secretary for 12 years. When Ashford needed to cover a $20,000 shortage in 2019, she planted receipts in Marie's desk. Marie lost custody of her 2 daughters during the investigation. She still doesn't have them back. 3rd file. Thomas Chen, cafeteria manager, 2020. Ashford accused him of stealing food supplies. He couldn't handle the shame. Tried to hang himself in his garage. Doc's voice cracked slightly. His wife found him. He survived, but he's been in a care facility ever since. Can't work, can't speak, can't feed himself. 4th file. And Rosa Torres, single mother, immigrant, perfect target. Ashford didn't just steal $47,000. She stole Maya's mother. She stole 2 years of a little girl's life. Reaper stood with his arms crossed, jaw tight. "Can the previous victims testify?" he asked. Ironside nodded. "I found James Whitehorse in Ontario. He's willing to come back and make a statement. Marie Kowalski lives 2 hours north. She'll testify if it means getting her daughters back. Thomas Chen can't testify, but his wife can. She's been keeping records hoping someone would eventually listen." "What about the recording?" Hammer asked. Teach stepped forward. "I spent 4 hours with Maya yesterday, helped her document everything, how she got into the school where she hid what she heard." He held up a transcript. "The recording is clean. No tampering, no editing. Gerald's already had an audio expert verify it. It'll hold up in court." Reaper looked around the room. "School board meets tomorrow night. Public meeting. We show up with evidence. We force them to act." "They'll try to shut us down," someone said. "That's why all 97 of us are going to be there." Reaper's voice was steel. "Clean clothes. No cuts. Business casual. We sit quietly. We present evidence. We let the system work." Bite raised his hand. "And if the system doesn't work?" Reaper's smile was cold. "Then every news station in Michigan gets copies of everything by Friday morning. Channel 7, Channel 9, Detroit Free Press Bridge Magazine. We blow this so wide that the school board has to act or face public outrage." Hammer stood slowly. "All in favor of full mobilization at tomorrow's meeting." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then every single hand went up. The next morning, Victoria Ashford woke to chaos. Her phone had 17 missed calls. Her email inbox showed 43 new messages. Her assistant had texted 7 times with increasing urgency. "Urgent. Call me immediately. Something's happening. There are men at the school. Bikers. Dozens of them. Victoria, please call." Ashford sat up in bed, her heart suddenly racing. She dialed her assistant's number. "Margaret, what's going on?" "They're everywhere, Victoria. Motorcycles in the parking lot. Men in leather jackets. They're not doing anything, just standing there. But parents are calling. The board is calling. Everyone wants to know what's happening." Ashford's blood went cold. Did they say anything? Did they give any indication? One of them talked to a reporter from Channel 9, said they're here about justice for Rosa Torres. The phone nearly slipped from Ashford's hand. Rosa Torres. The janitor she'd framed 2 years ago. The woman rotting in prison for a crime Ashford committed. "Cancel my morning meetings," Ashford said, forcing her voice to stay calm. "Call Gregory Marsh. Tell him I need to speak with him immediately. And Margaret, yes, don't talk to anyone. Not the press, not the board members, not anyone. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Ashford hung up and stared at the wall. This couldn't be happening. Rosa Torres was in prison. Her daughter was homeless, invisible, powerless. There was no one left to fight, unless her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Victoria Ashford. Who is this? My name is Gerald Whitmore. I'm an attorney representing Maya Torres in the matter of her mother's wrongful conviction. Ashford's heart stopped. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I'm calling as a courtesy to inform you that I've filed an emergency motion with the court this morning. New evidence has come to light that proves Rosa Torres did not commit the theft she was convicted of. In fact, the evidence proves that you committed the theft and framed Mrs. Torres to cover your crimes. Ashford couldn't breathe. That's absurd. I'll have your license for making accusations like, Mrs. Ashford, I have a recording, made by Maya Torres 6 months ago, in which you admit to everything. Embezzlement framing Rosa Torres, calling her the perfect scapegoat because no one would believe an immigrant janitor over a respected principal. Silence. The hearing is scheduled for Wednesday morning, Gerald continued. I suggest you retain legal counsel. You're going to need it. He hung up. Ashford sat, frozen phone still pressed to her ear. A recording. Maya Torres had a recording. That homeless little brat. That piece of trash she'd stepped over a dozen times in the past 2 years without a second thought. She'd recorded everything. Ashford's hands began to shake. First her hands, then her whole body. This couldn't be happening. She had too much to lose. The house, the investments, the reputation she'd spent 20 years building. She wasn't going to prison. Not for this. Not for anything. Ashford grabbed her phone and dialed a number she'd hoped she'd never have to use. Marcus, it's Victoria. I need your help. What kind of help? The kind that makes problems disappear. That same morning, Maya was discharged from the hospital. Reaper was waiting in the lobby with Lucas, who broke away from his father and ran straight to her. Maya. He threw his arms around her waist. You're okay. The doctor said you were really sick, but you're okay now. Maya hugged him back, surprised by how natural it felt. She'd been alone for so long she'd forgotten what human warmth was like. I'm okay, she said. How are you? How are your fingers? Lucas held up his hands, showing off the bandages on 3 fingertips. The doctor said it's just a little frostbite. She said I was really lucky. She said if you hadn't pulled me out when you did. His voice cracked. Hey. Maya knelt down so she was at eye level. You're okay now. That's what matters. You're okay. Lucas's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I was so stupid. I just wanted Grammy's locket. I didn't mean to… Shh. It wasn't stupid. You loved your grandmother. You wanted to hold on to something that reminded you of her. That's not stupid, that's love. Lucas wiped his nose on his sleeve. My dad said you don't have a mom right now. That she's far away. Maya's throat tightened. She is. But hopefully not for much longer. When she comes back, can I meet her? I want to tell her how brave you are. Maya couldn't speak. She just pulled Lucas into another hug and held on. Reaper watched them from across the lobby, his expression unreadable. This girl, this 13-year-old girl who had nothing, who'd been through hell, who had every reason to be bitter and broken. She was comforting his son. She was being kind to a little boy who'd almost gotten her killed. Some people were just born good, no matter what the world did to them. Ready to go? Reaper asked, walking over. Maya stood up suddenly, uncertain. Where are we going? My house. You're staying with us until your mother gets out. I can't. You can and you will. Reaper's voice left no room for argument. The church basement isn't safe. The streets aren't safe. My house has heat, food, and a bedroom that hasn't been used since my mother passed. You're staying." Maya opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. For 2 years she'd survived by saying no. No to shelters that asked too many questions. No to foster homes that felt like prisons. No to anyone who tried to help, because help always came with strings attached. But this felt different. Reaper wasn't asking for anything, wasn't expecting anything. He was just offering a warm place to sleep and food to eat. And Maya was so tired of being cold. "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you." Reaper nodded once, then led them out to his truck. They drove through Marquette in silence. Lucas fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the past 2 days. Maya stared out the window, watching the town she'd lived in for 13 years pass by like a stranger. She'd walked these streets every day for 2 years, had memorized which dumpsters had the best food, which buildings had unlocked doors, which alleys were safe to sleep in. Now she was leaving all of it behind. And she didn't feel sad. She felt relieved. Reaper's house was small but clean. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that smelled like coffee and bacon. Pictures on the walls of Lucas at various ages. A woman Maya didn't recognize, blonde and beautiful, holding a baby in a hospital bed. "That's Rebecca," Reaper said, following her gaze. "Lucas's mother. She died when he was born." "I'm sorry. Don't be. She'd be happy knowing Lucas is alive because of you." He cleared his throat. "Guest room's down the hall. Bathroom's on the right. There's food in the fridge. Help yourself to anything." Maya nodded, still feeling out of place. "The school board meeting's tonight," Reaper continued. 7 o'clock. Gerald thinks they'll try to stall, but with 97 of us there, they won't be able to ignore what's happening. I'll be back by 10. Lucas's aunt is coming over to watch him. "Can I come?" Reaper stopped. "To the meeting. Yes, I want to be there. I want to see Ashford's face when they play the recording." For a moment, Maya thought he'd say no. She was just a kid. This was adult business. She should stay home where it was safe. But Reaper looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something in her eyes that made him change his mind. "Get some rest," he said. "We leave at 6:30. The school board meeting started at 7 o'clock sharp. The room was packed. Standing room only. 97 bikers in clean clothes filled the back half of the space, silent and watchful. Parents, teachers, community members filled the front. 3 news cameras set up along the walls. Victoria Ashford sat at the board table flanked by 4 other members. Her face was composed professional, showing none of the panic that had been consuming her since Gerald's call that morning. She'd made arrangements. Marcus was handling things. By tomorrow, this would all be over. The board chair, Gregory Marsh, called the meeting to order. "Before we begin regular business, I understand there are community members who wish to address the board during public comment. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Ironside stood and walked to the podium. "My name is Marcus Webb. I'm a retired Detroit police detective. I'm here regarding the wrongful conviction of Rosa Torres." Ashford's face remained frozen. 2 years ago, Rosa Torres was convicted of stealing $47,000 from Marquette Academy based primarily on testimony from Principal Victoria Ashford. Mrs. Torres is currently serving a 5-year sentence at Hiawatha Correctional Facility. Her daughter Maya has been homeless since the conviction. He opened a folder. "I have evidence that Rosa Torres did not commit this crime. In fact, I have evidence that Victoria Ashford committed the crime and framed Mrs. Torres to cover her tracks." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Ashford's attorney leaned over and whispered something. She shook her head sharply. Ironside laid out documents on the podium. Financial records showing $312,000 embezzled from Marquette Academy over 11 years, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Shell corporations used to launder the stolen funds. He looked directly at Ashford. All of it traceable to Principal Ashford. Gregory Marsh shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Webb, these are serious allegations. Do you have proof? I have more than proof. Ironside pulled out his phone. I have a recording, made 6 months ago by Maya Torres, in which Principal Ashford admits to everything. The room went dead silent. Ashford stood abruptly. This is outrageous. You can't— Sit down, Victoria, Marsh said quietly. Let's hear the recording. And Ironside connected his phone to the room's speaker system. Victoria Ashford's voice filled the space, clear, confident, damning. Rosa Torres was perfect. Single mother immigrant background, no resources to fight back. Who's going to believe a janitor over me? The police didn't even investigate. They just took my word for it. The recording continued. Every word another nail in her coffin. Greg, I've been doing this for 5 years. 47,000 is just what I blamed on Torres. The total is closer to 300,000. Offshore accounts. Untraceable. By the time anyone figures it out, I'll be retired on a beach somewhere. The recording ended. Ashford's face had gone gray. Gregory Marsh stared at her, something dark and terrible in his eyes. Victoria, is this true? Ashford's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I want my attorney, she finally said. I'm not saying another word without my attorney. The room erupted. Maya watched from the back of the room, standing next to Reaper, and felt something she'd almost forgotten existed. Justice. It felt like fire in her chest. It felt like hope. It felt like her mother coming home. The board voted unanimously to suspend Ashford pending investigation. They voted to forward all evidence to the county prosecutor. They voted to issue a formal apology to Rosa Torres and her daughter. And through it all, Victoria Ashford sat motionless, her perfect composure finally cracking. She'd spent 11 years building an empire on lies, and a 13-year-old girl had brought it all crashing down. After the meeting, Maya stood outside the building, breathing cold air that tasted like freedom. Reaper appeared beside her. How do you feel? Maya thought about it. About her mother in prison. About 2 years on the streets. About the ice and the water and the 32 people who watched and did nothing. I feel like this is just the beginning, she said. Reaper nodded. It is. Tomorrow the prosecutor files charges. Thursday we go to court. And by Friday— He put a hand on her shoulder. By Friday your mother comes home. Maya looked up at him, this massive, terrifying man who'd become her protector. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Don't thank me yet. We're not done. His phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his expression changed. What is it? Maya asked. Reaper's jaw tightened. Gerald just got a call. Ashford's attorney filed a motion to dismiss the case. They're claiming the recording was obtained illegally, that it can't be used as evidence. Maya's blood went cold. Can they do that? They can try. Reaper's voice was dangerous. But they're going to have to go through us first. He turned and walked toward the parking lot, already dialing a number. Maya stood alone in the cold, watching him go. She'd thought this was almost over. She'd thought her mother was almost home. But Victoria Ashford wasn't finished fighting. And neither was Maya. Gerald Whitmore's office was packed by 8 o'clock the next morning. Reaper stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the street below. Ironside sat at the conference table, laptop open, scrolling through legal documents. Maya sat in a leather chair, too big for her knees, pulled to her chest, waiting. Gerald walked in with a stack of papers, and a look that made Maya's stomach drop. "They filed at midnight," Gerald said, spreading documents across the table. "Ashford's attorney is claiming the recording was obtained through illegal trespass. Maya entered private property without permission. Under Michigan law, any evidence gathered during the commission of a crime can be excluded." "That's garbage," Reaper said. "It's the law." Gerald rubbed his temples. "The judge assigned to the case is William Porter. He's a strict constructionist. By the book. If Ashford's attorney can prove Maya was trespassing when she made that recording, Porter might throw it out." Maya felt the floor shifting beneath her. "So my mom stays in prison because I broke into a school?" "Not necessarily." Gerald held up a hand. "There's a doctrine called inevitable discovery. If we can prove the evidence would have been found anyway through legal means, the recording stays admissible. But it's not guaranteed. We need more." "More what?" Reaper asked. "More witnesses, more documentation, more proof that doesn't rely on that recording." Gerald looked at Ironside. "You said there were other victims. Can any of them testify to Ashford's pattern of behavior?" Ironside nodded. "James Whitehorse is already in town. Marie Kowalski arrives this afternoon. Thomas Chen's wife is willing to give a statement about what the accusations did to her husband. That helps, but it's not enough." Gerald turned to Maya. "I need you to think. Is there anything else? Anything you saw? Anything you heard? Anything that can corroborate the recording without being connected to it?" Maya closed her eyes, forcing herself to remember. 6 months ago, the night she'd snuck into the school, the conversation she'd recorded. But there was something else. Something she'd almost forgotten. "The safe," she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "What safe?" Gerald asked. "In Ashford's office, behind the painting. I saw her open it that night. She put something inside. Papers. A lot of papers." Gerald leaned forward. "Did you see what was on the papers?" "No. But she was nervous, kept looking at the door, like she was afraid someone would see." Ironside was already typing. "If those papers are financial records receipts, anything that proves the embezzlement, we don't need the recording. We just need what's in that safe." "But how do we get it legally?" Reaper asked. Gerald smiled for the first time that morning. "Search warrant. If we can convince a judge there's probable cause to believe evidence of a crime is being stored in that safe, they'll authorize a search." He looked at Maya. "You'll need to sign an affidavit. Swear under oath that you saw Ashford put documents in that safe. Can you do that?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Good. I'll have the paperwork ready in an hour." Reaper's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his expression changed. "Problem," he said. "2 of my brothers just spotted Marcus Devlin outside the hospital. He was asking about Maya." Gerald's face went pale. "Marcus Devlin. The fixer. The same." Maya looked between them. "Who's Marcus Devlin?" Reaper's jaw tightened. "Someone Ashford hired to make problems disappear. He's not a lawyer. He's not a cop. He's the guy you call when you need something done, and you don't care how it gets done." "You think he's coming after Maya?" "I think Ashford's desperate. And desperate people do desperate things." Reaper pulled out his phone. "I'm putting a security detail on Maya. 2 brothers with her at all times. She doesn't go anywhere alone." "Is that really necessary?" Gerald asked. "After what Ashford's already done, yeah, it's necessary." Maya felt fear crawling up her spine. She'd spent 2 years being invisible, being overlooked, being dismissed. Now someone was actively looking for her. And not to help. 2 hours later, Maya sat in Judge William Porter's chambers, signing her affidavit. The judge was older than she expected. Gray hair glasses, a face that looked like it had never smiled. He read through the document slowly, methodically, while Maya watched and waited. You're claiming you witnessed Principal Ashford place documents in a concealed safe in her office, Porter said without looking up. Yes, sir. And you were in her office because you had broken into the school after hours. Maya's throat tightened. Yes, sir. Porter finally looked at her. His eyes were cold, assessing. Do you understand that trespassing is a crime that you could face charges for what you did? Yes, sir. Then why did you do it? Maya thought about lying. Thought about making up some excuse about being cold, needing shelter, just looking for a place to sleep. But she was tired of lies. She'd been surrounded by them for 2 years. Because my mother was in prison for something she didn't do, Maya said. Because I'd tried everything else. I'd talked to lawyers who wouldn't take my case. I'd written letters to newspapers that never got published. I'd begged people to believe me and nobody would. Her voice cracked. I was 13 years old and homeless and I had nothing left. So I broke into the school and I hid in her office, and I recorded her because I didn't know what else to do. Porter stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to Gerald. I'm signing the search warrant, he said, but I want it executed today, before Ashford has time to destroy anything. Gerald nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Porter looked back at Maya. What you did was illegal, but I've been a judge for 32 years, and I've learned that the law isn't always the same thing as justice. He signed the warrant and handed it to Gerald. Good luck, young lady. I hope you find what you're looking for. Maya walked out of the courthouse with tears streaming down her face. The search warrant was executed at 3 o'clock that afternoon. Maya wasn't allowed to be there. Gerald said it would look like intimidation. So she waited at Reaper's house with Lucas, while the adults did what needed to be done. Reaper called at 4:15. We got it, he said. The safe had everything. Bank statements, wire transfer records, receipts from offshore accounts. 11 years of evidence. Ashford was keeping records of her own crimes. Maya's knees buckled. She sat down hard on the couch phone pressed to her ear. What does that mean? It means the recording doesn't matter anymore. We have paper evidence, documents that can't be excluded. Ashford's attorney filed a motion to dismiss this morning. Gerald's filing our response right now with everything we found in that safe. Lucas looked up from his coloring book, confused by the tears running down Maya's face. Are you sad? He asked. Maya shook her head. No, baby. I'm happy. I'm so happy. She clutched the phone like a lifeline. When can my mom come home? Gerald's filing the motion to overturn her conviction tonight. Hearing set for tomorrow morning. If everything goes right. If everything goes right. Reaper paused. Maya, there's something else. Ashford's not at her house. We went to serve her with papers and she was gone. Car's in the garage. Clothes are still in the closet, but she's disappeared. Maya's blood went cold. What does that mean? It means she knows she's losing, and people like Ashford don't just give up. Reaper's voice hardened. Stay in the house. Keep the doors locked. The brothers I assigned to you are outside. Don't go anywhere until I get back. He hung up. Maya sat on the couch, heart pounding, and tried not to think about what a desperate woman might do. She didn't have to wonder for long. At 6 o'clock, someone knocked on the door. Maya froze. Don't answer it, Lucas said, his voice small. Daddy said not to let anyone in. The knock came again. Louder. Then a voice. Maya Torres, I know you're in there. Open the door. We need to talk. Maya recognized the voice. Smooth, confident. The voice from her recording. Victoria Ashford. Maya's hands started shaking. She grabbed Lucas and pulled him behind her, backing away from the door. Go to your room, she whispered. Lock the door. Don't come out until your daddy gets here. But now, Lucas. Please. Lucas ran down the hall. Maya heard his door slam, heard the lock click. The knock came again. I know about the warrant, Ashford said through the door. I know what they found. It's over for me. I accept that. But before I turn myself in, I want to talk to you. Just talk. Please. Maya didn't move. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to explain. I want you to understand why I did what I did. I don't care why you did it. Yes, you do. Because you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering if your mother could have been saved sooner. If someone had just listened to you. If someone had just believed you. Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. You destroyed my family. I know. And I'm sorry. Sorry. Maya's voice cracked. You're sorry my mother's been in prison for 2 years. I've been sleeping in basements and eating out of garbage cans. And you're sorry. Silence on the other side of the door. Then Ashford's voice again, quieter now. I didn't set out to hurt anyone. I just needed money. My husband left me with nothing. My daughter has medical bills I couldn't pay. I thought I'd borrow from the school fund, pay it back later, and no one would ever know. But you didn't pay it back. No, I didn't. And then the auditors started asking questions and I panicked. I needed someone to blame. Your mother was... Ashford's voice caught. She was convenient. I'm not proud of it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you to understand. Maya's hand reached for the doorknob. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to wait for Reaper, to stay safe. But she needed to see Ashford's face, needed to look into the eyes of the woman who had taken everything from her. She opened the door. Victoria Ashford looked nothing like the polished professional from the school board meeting. Her hair was tangled, her makeup was smeared, her clothes were wrinkled like she'd been wearing them for days. She looked broken. Maya felt nothing. You ruined my life because you were scared, Maya said. You let my mother rot in prison because you didn't want to face the consequences of your own choices. You watched me dig through garbage cans and you did nothing. And now you want me to understand. Ashford's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 2 years. Sorry doesn't give my mother back her dignity. Sorry doesn't fix anything. I know. That's why I'm here. Ashford reached into her pocket. Maya tensed, ready to run. But Ashford didn't pull out a weapon. She pulled out an envelope. This is a signed confession, Ashford said. Everything I did, everyone I framed, every dollar I stole. I'm turning myself in tonight. But I wanted you to have this first. I wanted you to know that your mother's coming home. Maya stared at the envelope. Why? Because I saw the video. From the lake. I saw you go into that water for that little boy. I saw you almost die saving a stranger. Ashford's voice broke. I've spent 11 years taking things from people. You spent 9 minutes giving everything you had. I don't know if that means anything, but I couldn't let you down again. She pressed the envelope into Maya's hands. I'm sorry, Maya, for everything. Then she turned and walked toward the 2 bikers standing at the end of the driveway. I'm ready, Ashford said. Take me wherever I need to go. Maya watched them put her in a car, watched the car drive away. Then she opened the envelope and read the confession of the woman who had destroyed her life. And she felt something she hadn't expected. Pity. The next morning, Rosa Torres's conviction was overturned. Judge Porter presided over the hearing. Gerald presented the evidence, the financial records, the witness statements, Victoria Ashford's signed confession. The prosecutor didn't even argue. He stood up, apologized to the court, and asked that all charges be dismissed with prejudice. Porter banged his gavel. Rosa Maria Torres is hereby exonerated of all charges. Her record is expunged. She is to be released immediately. Maya was in the courtroom when it happened, sitting in the front row, watching the words she'd dreamed about for 2 years become real. She didn't cry. She was past crying. She just sat there, hands folded in her lap, and let the reality wash over her. Her mother was coming home. The drive to Hiawatha Correctional Facility took 4 hours. Reaper drove. Lucas sat in the back seat, excited to meet the woman Maya had told him so much about. Maya sat in the passenger seat, clutching her mother's letters, too nervous to speak. What if her mother was angry? What if prison had changed her? What if she didn't recognize Maya anymore? What if this was all a dream, and she'd wake up back in that church basement alone and cold and invisible? They arrived at the prison at 2 o'clock. Maya walked through security, walked through metal detectors, walked down hallways that smelled like bleach and desperation. And then she saw her. Rosa Torres stood at the end of the corridor, wearing the same clothes she'd been arrested in 2 years ago. Hair grayer than Maya remembered, face thinner, eyes older. But her smile was exactly the same. "Mija," Rosa whispered. Maya ran. She crashed into her mother's arms, and Rosa caught her, held her, squeezed her so tight Maya couldn't breathe. "My baby," Rosa sobbed. "My brave, beautiful baby." "Mama," the word came out broken. "Mama, I missed you so much." I know. I missed you too, every single day." They stood there holding each other, crying for what felt like hours. Finally, Rosa pulled back and cupped Maya's face in her hands. "Look at you," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You got so big, so strong. My little warrior. I had to be strong. I had to survive. I know. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. It wasn't your fault. I should have fought harder. I should have— Mama, stop." Maya took her mother's hands. "You're here now. You're free. That's all that matters." Rosa nodded, wiping her eyes. "Who's this?" she asked, looking past Maya. Reaper stood a few feet away, Lucas at his side. "This is Daniel," Maya said, "and his son Lucas. They helped me. They believed me when no one else would." Rosa walked over to Reaper and looked up at the massive biker with tears in her eyes. "You protected my daughter," she said. "You brought her home to me." Reaper's voice was rough. "She saved my son first. Blood debt. We were just paying it back." Rosa reached up and put a hand on his cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me my baby back." And then Rosa Torres hugged Daniel Reaper Brennan, and the big biker who'd terrified grown men his whole life had to turn away so no one would see him wipe his eyes. Lucas tugged on Rosa's sleeve. "Are you Maya's mom?" Rosa knelt down to his level. "Yes, I am. Maya saved me from the lake. She was really brave. She almost died, but she didn't let go." Rosa's eyes welled up again. "I know," she told me. "I'm glad you're not in jail anymore. Maya cried a lot when she talked about you." Rosa pulled Lucas into a hug. "Thank you for loving my daughter," she whispered. "Thank you for being her friend." Lucas hugged her back, small arms around her neck. "Can you come to our house for dinner? Maya's been staying with us. We have spaghetti." Rosa laughed through her tears. "I would love that." They walked out of the prison together. Maya held her mother's hand the entire way, and when they stepped outside into the cold Michigan air, Rosa Torres lifted her face to the sky and breathed deep. "Free," she whispered. "I'm free." Maya squeezed her hand. "We both are." The first night Rosa Torres spent as a free woman, she didn't sleep. She sat on the edge of Maya's bed, watching her daughter breathe, counting each rise and fall of her chest, making sure this was real. 2 years. 730 days of wondering if her daughter was alive. if she was eating, if she was warm, if she was safe. Now Maya slept in a real bed in a warm house with a full stomach. And Rosa couldn't stop the tears from falling. "She's strong," Reaper said from the doorway, his voice low. "Strongest kid I've ever met." Rosa wiped her eyes. She shouldn't have had to be. She was 11 when they took me. 11 years old, and I left her alone. You didn't leave her. You were taken. Same result. Rosa's voice cracked. My baby grew up on the streets because I couldn't protect her. Reaper walked into the room and sat down in the chair by the window. "Let me tell you something about your daughter," he said. 3 days ago, my son fell through ice on Lake Superior. 32 adults stood there filming. Paramedics, teachers, firefighters. Not one of them moved. Your daughter went into that water without hesitation. She was hypothermic starving, had nothing left to lose, and she saved my boy's life. Rosa looked at him. "That's not weakness," Reaper continued. "That's not damage. That's who she is. Who you raised her to be before any of this happened. Ashford took 2 years from you, but she didn't take your daughter's soul. That's still there. Still strong. Still good." Rosa turned back to Maya, sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. "How do I thank you?" she whispered. "For everything you've done. You don't. You just be her mother. That's all she's wanted for 2 years. Rosa nodded, wiping her face. "I don't know how to start over. I don't have a job. I don't have a home. I don't have anything." "You have us." Reaper stood up. "Gerald's filing a civil suit against Ashford tomorrow. Wrongful imprisonment. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Fraud. He thinks you could get 700,000-800,000. Maybe more." Rosa's eyes widened. "I don't want her money. It's not her money. It's justice. It's compensation for what she stole from you." Reaper paused at the door. "And even if you don't want it for yourself, think about Maya. College fund. Medical care. A future. She deserves that." He walked out, leaving Rosa alone with her daughter. Rosa lay down next to Maya, careful not to wake her, and wrapped her arms around the girl she'd missed every single day for 2 years. "I'm here now," she whispered into Maya's hair. "I'm never leaving you again." Maya stirred, turned, and nestled closer to her mother's warmth. And for the first time since the police had put her in handcuffs, Rosa Torres slept wept. The next morning the news broke. Every channel, every newspaper, every website. Marquette principal arrested in massive embezzlement scheme. Wrongfully convicted mother freed after daughter's 2-year fight. Homeless teen's heroic rescue leads to corruption scandal. Maya's face was everywhere. The photo from her library card taken when she was 11. The school picture from 6th grade, the last one before everything fell apart. And a new photo. One someone had taken at the lake. Maya soaking wet, performing CPR on Lucas, while 32 people watched from shore. The contrast was devastating. A child saving a life. Adults doing nothing. By noon, the story had gone national. CNN picked it up. NBC, ABC, Fox. Everyone wanted to talk to the homeless girl who'd exposed a corrupt principal and freed her mother from prison. Maya refused every interview. "I don't want to be famous," she told Gerald when he suggested it might help the civil case. "I just want to go back to school. I want to be normal." Gerald nodded, respecting her decision. But the story took on a life of its own. James Whitehorse went on Good Morning America and told his story. Deported after 30 years for a crime he didn't commit. Fighting to come back to the only country he'd ever known. Marie Kowalski appeared on local news holding a photo of her 2 daughters, still fighting to regain custody, still waiting for justice. Thomas Chen's wife gave a tearful interview from her husband's hospital room, showing photos of the man he'd been before Ashford destroyed him. Strong, capable, happy. Now he couldn't feed himself, and everywhere the same question. How did one woman cause so much damage for so long without anyone noticing Victoria Ashford's arraignment was held on Friday morning? The courtroom was packed. News cameras lined the walls. Every seat was filled. 97 bikers stood outside, silent and watchful. They weren't allowed inside, but they didn't need to be. Their presence was enough. Ashford shuffled in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of her. Her hair was unwashed. Her face was pale. She looked 20 years older than she had a week ago. Maya sat in the front row between her mother and Reaper. Lucas sat on Reaper's other side, holding his father's hand. The judge read the charges: embezzlement, fraud, perjury, falsifying evidence, witness tampering, 4 counts of obstruction of justice. Each charge was another nail in the coffin. "How does the defendant plead?" the judge asked. Ashford's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client pleads guilty to all charges." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Maya felt her mother's hand tighten around hers. "Mrs. Ashford, do you understand the consequences of this plea?" the judge asked. Ashford stood slowly. Her voice was barely audible. "Yes, Your Honor." "Do you have anything to say before I impose sentence?" Ashford turned, looked at Maya, looked at Rosa, looked at the faces of everyone she'd hurt. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know that doesn't mean anything. I know sorry doesn't give anyone back what I stole. But I'm sorry. For all of it." She turned back to the judge. "I accept whatever sentence you give me. I deserve it." The judge shuffled papers. "Victoria Elizabeth Ashford, for the crimes to which you have pleaded guilty, I hereby sentence you to 15 years in state prison with no possibility of parole for 10 years. You are also ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $312,000 to Marquette Academy and additional compensatory damages to your victims as determined by civil proceedings." He banged his gavel. "Court is adjourned." Guards led Ashford away. She didn't look back. Maya watched her go, waiting to feel something. Satisfaction. Triumph. Closure. But all she felt was tired. Her mother squeezed her hand. "It's over, Mija. It's finally over." Maya leaned against her mother's shoulder. "Yeah," she whispered. "It is." 6 months later, everything had changed. The civil lawsuit settled for $890,000. Gerald took his fee, and the rest went into a trust for Maya and Rosa. Enough to buy a small house. Enough for Maya's college fund. Enough for Rosa to take time to heal before looking for work. The other victims received settlements, too. James Whitehorse got his immigration status reinstated. Marie Kowalski regained custody of her daughters. Thomas Chen's wife got enough money to move him to a specialized care facility where he was slowly, painfully learning to speak again. The school board implemented new oversight policies. No more rubber stamping audits. No more looking the other way when money went missing. No more protecting powerful people at the expense of vulnerable ones. And Maya Torres went back to school. Not Marquette Academy. She wanted nothing to do with that place. A public school across town where nobody knew her story, where she could just be another kid in the hallway. The first day was terrifying. Maya stood outside the building, backpack too heavy, palms sweating, heart racing. She'd been invisible for so long. She didn't know how to be seen anymore. Her mother stood beside her, holding her hand. "You don't have to do this today," Rosa said. "We can wait. Give you more time to adjust." Maya shook her head. "I've been waiting for 2 years. I'm done waiting." She squeezed her mother's hand, let go, and walked through the doors. The hallway was chaos. Kids laughing, lockers slamming, teachers shouting over the noise. Maya felt herself shrinking, trying to disappear the way she'd trained herself to do on the streets. Then she remembered something Reaper had told her. "You saved my son's life, while 32 people watched and did nothing. You're braver than anyone in that school. Don't ever forget that." Maya straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, walked into the crowd. A girl bumped into her, looked up, and froze. "Oh my God. You're her. You're the girl from the lake, the one who saved that little boy." Maya felt her face flush. "Yeah, that's me. That was like the bravest thing I've ever seen. My mom showed me the video and she was crying and I was crying and—" The girl stopped, suddenly embarrassed. "Sorry, I'm talking too much. I'm Jenna." "Maya, I know." Jenna grinned. "Everyone knows. You're kind of famous." "I don't want to be famous." "Too late. But hey, if you want, I can show you where your classes are. This school's confusing as hell." Maya hesitated. She'd spent 2 years trusting no one, relying on no one, needing no one. But that was the old Maya, the Maya who had to survive alone. She didn't have to survive alone anymore. "Yeah," Maya said. "That'd be great." The hellsangels held their annual summer cookout in July. 200 people filled the clubhouse grounds. Brothers, families, friends, kids running around with sparklers. Music playing from speakers. Grills loaded with burgers and ribs. Maya stood near the fence talking with Doc about the first aid course she was taking at the community college. She wanted to be a paramedic now. Maybe a nurse later. Someone who helped people when everyone else was too scared to move. She looked different than she had 6 months ago. Healthy, strong. Her hair was clean and styled. Her clothes fit. She'd gained 23 pounds of healthy weight, and her cheeks had color again. Lucas ran up and grabbed her hand. "Maya, Daddy says it's time." "Time for what?" "The thing, the surprise thing." Maya let him drag her toward the center of the gathering where Reaper stood waiting with a wooden plaque in his hands. The crowd parted. Rosa stepped up beside her daughter, eyes already filling with tears. Reaper cleared his throat. 6 months ago, a 13-year-old girl did something that 97 grown men talk about with awe. She went into frozen water to save a stranger's son. She gave everything she had when everyone else gave nothing. He held up the plaque. "This is for Maya Torres, for reminding us what courage looks like." Maya stepped forward. Her hands shook as she took the plaque. Mounted under glass was a photo. Maya and Lucas taken at the hospital the day after the rescue. Lucas grinning, Maya with dark circles under her eyes, but smiling, really smiling for the first time in 2 years. Below the photo, an inscription, "Heroes don't wait for permission. They move when everyone else stands still." Maya Torres, age 13th January 2026. Maya's vision blurred. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Reaper put a hand on her shoulder. "You showed us what matters. Words aren't necessary." Doc raised his glass. "To Maya Torres, the bravest person any of us have ever known." 200 voices echoed back. "To Maya." Rosa wrapped her arms around her daughter, crying openly now. "I'm so proud of you, mija. So proud." Maya held her mother tight, looking out at the crowd of people who'd become her family. She thought about the 32 people on the shore of Lake Superior, the ones who'd stood there with their phones filming a child drown. She thought about Mrs. Hartley, her former Sunday school teacher, posting the video to Facebook while a 7-year-old boy's heart stopped. She thought about the firefighters who'd argued about protocol instead of saving a life. And she thought about herself. 13 years old, homeless, starving, nothing left to lose. She'd gone into that water because no one else would, and everything had changed. That night after the cookout, Maya sat on Reaper's porch with Lucas asleep in her lap. Reaper sat across from her, beer in hand, looking out at the stars. "What are you going to do now?" he asked. Maya thought about it. "Finish high school, go to college, become a paramedic, maybe start a program to teach kids about bystander intervention." She paused. "I want to make sure no one else has to be as alone as I was." Reaper nodded slowly. "You know you're always welcome here. You and your mom. Whatever you need." "I know." Maya looked down at Lucas's sleeping face. "Thank you. For everything. For believing me when no one else did. I didn't do anything special. I just paid attention. That's more than most people ever do." Reaper was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "That day on the ice, when you went in, were you scared?" Maya remembered the cold, the knives of ice water stabbing into her skin, the moment she thought she was going to die. "Terrified," she admitted. "But I was more scared of watching him die than I was of dying myself." Reaper raised his beer. "That's the difference, Maya. That's what separates people who act from people who watch. You were scared, but you moved anyway." Maya looked up at the stars. "I just hope other people learn to move too." "They will. Because of you. Because they saw what one person can do." A year later, Maya Torres graduated 8th grade at the top of her class. She gave the commencement speech, stood at the podium in front of 300 people, and talked about courage. About seeing someone who needs help and not looking away. About being the person who moves when everyone else stands still. Rosa sat in the front row, crying through the whole thing. Lucas sat beside her, wearing his grandmother's locket, cheering louder than anyone. Reaper and 96 of his brothers filled the back of the auditorium, silent and watchful, proud of the girl who'd become family. And somewhere in a prison 600 miles away, Victoria Ashford watched the news coverage of Maya's speech and wept. Not for herself. Not anymore. For the girl she'd tried to destroy. The girl who'd risen from the ashes of everything Ashford had taken. The girl who'd reminded the world that heroes don't need titles, or money, or power. They just need the courage to move. Maya Torres walked off that stage with her diploma in one hand and her mother's hand in the other. She'd been called trash. She'd been invisible. She'd been abandoned by every system that was supposed to protect her. But she'd never stopped fighting. And now, finally, she was home. Not just a house with walls and a roof. Not just a bed and a warm place to sleep. Home was her mother's arms around her. Home was Lucas calling her my Maya and following her everywhere. Home was 97 bikers who'd become uncles and protectors and family. Home was the courage to face tomorrow, no matter what it brought. Maya Torres had spent 2 years surviving. Now she was ready to live. Because she wasn't trash. She never was. She was a hero. And heroes don't wait for permission. They rise.